I always believe if you are not ready to upskill, you may be one of those people who will have difficulty retaining your job or position or role. Those who adapt will naturally find more work. Once we have come out of our education and we've got into a job, we don't go back to reading and studying. Solution consultants, technology, engineering people do this very well. They constantly update themselves. When COVID happened, many leaders, be it CFOs or CEOs or any other function, wanted to make quick decisions around changes that happened. You either lost revenue or businesses were not coming in.
So how is agentic AI, is it also disruptive?
Innovation is all about bringing disruption, right? Bringing something new, thinking out of the box. Today, you may see agentic AI as a disruption, but is it going to be for all sectors? Is it going to be for some sectors? Is everything going to change to agentic AI? The answer may be no.
So we are recording this from the heart of Adobe. This is the Adobe podcast studio. I'm your host Sripal Jain. Today we have Mr. Raghuram Krishnan, the strategic powerhouse, head of creativity, I would say. He's the CFO of Adobe India and leading the global FP&A function. He is also the Adobe Founders Recipient Award. He's also very equally passionate about cycling, mountaineering and whatnot. Welcome to the show, Raghu.
Thanks and welcome again to our studio.
So we are recording this from the heart of Adobe. This is the Adobe podcast studio. So Raghu, first of all, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. My first question on the segment one is, over 2 decades across trading, hardware and software, what shaped you into the leader that you are today?
I've been fortunate to make choices between industries I worked with. It was not just another job. I made switches between different industries to learn how each of them operate, especially the role that I was in as finance. So that's one helped me have a wider understanding of different businesses. But I spent my longest period here in this company. In terms of leadership, I've been somebody who has learned from watching. And I've always believed if I've looked at somebody that I was not appreciative of, and I have told myself I will not be this person when I come to that level. So for me, those watch and learn kind of moments have been most important. At the same time, I've also believed that learning comes from everything. Leadership is not a position, it's a virtue. It's something that you build from a very long time. It's probably surfaced and addressed to as a leadership quality only when you get to a certain position, but you get there because you were showcasing those values and those virtues throughout your career. And that's how I've kind of applied all of that through.
Awesome, Raghu. So you have won the Adobe's coveted Founders Award. What did that moment mean to you personally and professionally?
Yeah, so for a company, I have valued where the value system is very strong. Winning that from that company for me meant a lot, right from the CEO and the founders who I have immense respect for. I was the third finance person in history to get it at that point in time, which was itself something very unique. And what Founders Award gives you is the opportunity to sit with the founders and the executive team who are invited with your family to talk to them. You cannot talk business on that day. Everything is about you. And I was amazed with the amount of homework each of the leader had done about me and my family when we went there. So they actually were speaking to my wife and us about our family and not about work, which is very rare to see. And those are moments you never take away. And the humility of those leaders actually showcased, and you realize that they behave like people, not about the positions that they were carrying. So that was, I think, and I was lucky to at least see one of the founders. And a couple of years ago, he also passed away. So we've lost both the founders. Sad, but I was at least fortunate to see one of them in those dinners.
Awesome, Raghu. Would you want to throw light on your story? Like, how did you start off? Now, today you're leading the global FP&A function here in India. How did you start off your journey? Like, doing MBA from XLRI and then moving up. But before that, when did you decide that finance is something which you loved?
So actually, finance love happened much later in my career. My first choice was something else. But coming from a family where either you do commerce or science, commerce became the natural option at that point in time. What I realized is you pick up jobs which are what comes to you at the initial stages of a career. My greatest learnings were when opportunities knocked at my door, I picked them up. We were in a company that was shutting down. The CEO came and said, I need three of you to come and help me understand the balance sheet or put up a case to save this company. Three of us got picked up. And I was a travel accounting guy at that time. I was not even a manager, not a senior guy. And I was doing one part of the balance sheet. And but since I was had curiosity and I was aware, I got picked up because I was able to explain the entire business. And he said, okay, you know the balance sheet. And I went on presenting this to investors. We saved the company about 120 jobs. We started off fresh. So that was the kickstart of what you can do more than what your job describes. And I think ever since then, I've most likely picked up opportunities that I saw or something that came to me. And that has actually helped me evolve into who I've become. So any role that I've done till now is not in line with what the definition of that role said. It's very different because I've helped add these new elements to it, and the company has also participated in helping me pick up these projects and do it. So there was a point in time I wasn't sure whether I should do whole of finance because there's a lot of audit happening, and I found myself more interested and leaned more towards strategic thinking and FP&A kind of role. So I made a conscious switch at a certain point in time to say I will focus on this part, and that's where the journey more leaning towards FP&A happened. And I came here as an individual contributor to this company, and this idea of setting up a COE, I just randomly went to who's today my boss and said, here is an idea, would you be interested in running something like that? And 6 months down the line he said, come, we have a problem, can you solve it? We solved, and today, like they say, rest is history. This team is a global team managing most of the company's headcount and OPEX and many other aspects of the company.
We speak a lot about FP&A, and many of our students, they basically crave for this profile more. So what is FP&A for you, and why did it picked up suddenly in India? What was the kind of punch which FP&A got?
Yeah, so traditionally, I mean, FP&A is most commonly used terminology, business finance, MIS, and it has all kinds of names. They all are the same, business partnering. Now, in the past, they were after the fact reporting functions, like because data was not real time.
This is before COVID.
Yeah, pre-COVID and even a little before that. So when data became a little more available, largely, I think IT companies were much more ahead in the journey. We started looking at insights or predictability or forecasting, right, as a means of providing information. Now, that process was evolving into becoming insight driven, and it was heading towards what is called foresight. That is the ability to give you more information of what the future of business looks like and what is the trend saying. But that wasn't picking up in every area. COVID actually, in my opinion, drove the acceleration of that, because when COVID happened, many leaders, be it CFOs or CEOs or any other function, wanted to make quick decisions around changes that happened because of COVID. You either lost revenue or businesses were not coming in. You had to adjust costs because you were in a leased space. So many factors came into picture. The only team that you could lean to who had access to information were FP&A, and a lot of people succeeded because they had this strategic mindset. They knew how to tell the story on with numbers, and I think those teams grew faster. The ones who were purely after the fact reporting or delivery based models, they struggle to give you strategic insights into business or foresights into business. And suddenly you've seen since then a significant growth or a boom in the FP&A sector across the world. There is huge investments around this function because it's become one of the most partnering organizations in the company with the business as well as within finance to let you know information real time, which wasn't there in finance. And this is all about building predictability. And we're no longer looking at saving costs for the company. We're looking at divesting and reinvesting money. We're telling you what's the most optimal way for you to use this money, right? We are not trying to save money and showcase that to the company. Most CFOs today in matured companies will tell you, don't give me back the money. Tell me what's the ROI on that. So we focused on all of that aspects, and I think that's paid off very well. Most of my team today, we have this theme for next year called value immersion. And the idea is to move into a business partnering model. We don't send you reports, we explain and discuss reports with you. So that is when the partnering gets stronger. And that's where we see this is heading to. And this also as a function has become very tech savvy. Introduction of technology, AI, and everything else coming into it. This team is becoming more and more hands on, much more equipped with information, much more agile. And that's why FP&A is actually significantly growing.
So we have previously called as outsourcing, then we did in-housing, then it went to GCCs, capability centers. So what is GCC all about? If someone like in a layman language want to understand this, how did we kind of pivot from outsourcing to GCC?
So I think Global Capability Center is a matured understanding of this whole function is because it shifted from process management to value added services, right? In the past, it was all about managing processes, which were easy step by step management of work. That was started off, which was referred to as shared services. Cap2 was when the same company set up internally. Now, what evolved, and it was also cost arbitration at maybe 20 years ago. I think no longer they look at these investments as cost, they see it as value. Now, the impact of what these teams are providing are way more than what the reporting is all about, right? The importance of the information that is being provided, the dependency that we have, we consider ourselves an extended arm of those functions, and there's extreme talent that's available in the country for us to leverage, who come from various backgrounds in finance, and they are actually adding more and more value to this function. So I think that's where the GCC concept has become more evolved. We no longer look at this as cost arbitration decision making. It's all about how much more value can you bring, and functions can actually be part of your decision making cycle. So there's also a concept we're thinking through is how can GCC leaders have a seat on the board, because it's no longer a cost center, it's no longer a function that just providing services, it's actually adding value to decision making. So ideally the GCC leader should be sitting on the board as a decision maker, because he is as good as running a company by himself.
So we heard that Raghu, you're in the CIA task force for building the national policy, and there are over 70 leaders, folks, and you're the only one who's from the finance. So what is this task force about? Because we heard finance minister discussing about GCC in our budget as well. So what is government trying to do to build GCCs here? And we also heard about skill passport. So what are all these things?
Yeah, so the finance minister, honorable finance minister, mentioned this in the 2025 budget, that they would want to set up a task force to look into building national policy for GCCs. We don't have a very comprehensive policy. We had states driving some of these, and then we have about 1,800 odd GCCs in India today. And the idea is to also see, or how do we increase the contribution, which is today at about 1.6% of GDP, and how do we double that, and how do we further take it from there to a much bigger contribution to the GDP. Now, today we have 6 to 9 cities actually contributing to the population of GCC, how they spread out, mostly in major cities. And that also has challenges around infrastructure, approvals, processes, state driven and everything. So the idea is to centralize this whole thing, and also to identify what does it take for talent to be able to seek opportunities in these next set of cities, which we would today refer to as tier 2 cities. So we've identified many cities that we believe could be the future GCC hubs. And we've also mapped around what does it take for those cities to be ready for GCCs, whether it's infrastructure, talent, everything that's in the ecosystem that has to come from an airport, how do customers come in, and all of that. So we put all of that as part of what the requirements are for these cities to be able to deliver or support GCCs. At the same time, we're also looking at the concept of ease of doing business, right? How do we simplify registrations for companies that are coming in and setting up their entities? How do we, the skill passport we're talking about is how do we have an authenticated skill certification program that every time a company comes in, they are not worried about having to do background verifications on whether they're genuine or not. So this is something you could think in the lines of DigiLocker, right? I mean, anything that comes out of that is verified and authenticated. Now, if you have it through that passport, maybe I don't have to go check. A talent team just has to look at that, and I will be fairly, I can trust everything that is sitting because it is verified through a certain source. So we're looking at bringing in many elements. How do we bring education system to align with this whole policy, hard and soft skills, which is also critical. We're also looking at how do we make students or those ready coming in corporate ready. And that's a challenge that all of us face in terms of investing in how do universities bring that level of openness for them in their last year of education to be corporate ready, so that they are coming into corporate with an understanding of what is expected of them. So this also gives us better return. That's where we are as a group of people from the GCC industry. Well, I was lucky to be the only finance guy to be chosen. It came as a request to one of our MDs, and they nominated me to that committee, and the committee reviewed my profile and they included me. I was also added subsequently to the finance reporting model for the future. Again, as part of the discussions we've started, how should financial reporting look in the future? What should it entail and not entail? So this is good. I'm very proud that I'm representing Adobe there, as well as I'm playing a part in helping structure national policy, which is a very rare opportunity for many of us.
First of all, deep congratulations to you, Raghu. So we also heard about GCC. Normally, we try to relate GCC is more about services. So you spoke about GCC as a manufacturing. So what are different things which comes under GCC?
So it's largely GCC has been associated with services because in the last 15, 20 years, software industry is the one that's leveraged that aspect because the engineering talent was freely available. And if you see what started off as engineering services has shifted into non-engineering services. Today, finance is one, sales operations, HR operations, legal, all of these have been set up in many companies. So I think it has expanded itself in within the services sector. Outside of that is about manufacturing, right? Whether you're looking at the chip development or manufacturing in defense, which is a new segment that is opening up since they've announced. And there are many such segments, FMCGs, we can actually get into packaging, pharmacy, biotech research. All of this can come under the purview because one, it comes with a certain set of skills, and we are also trying to identify what skills do we have in order to service these industries. So we're actually looking at widening that example, the experience that will come from services, and that is what will help us actually go to the next level of growth, and not just restricting this to one sector.
Awesome. So here we also discussed about FP&A being a very popular function in the GCCs as well, and you said that that's the most growing function currently. If for the students, if you want to understand what Raghu sees as analytics, how do you define analytics? Like Sripal, he's that person whom I can relate that is made or known for FP&A. How do you define that?
Yeah, I think FP&A was not known as a career development function, right? Largely, I think a natural bent for finance was I should be doing something around accounting. Now, in the last few years, with RPA, robotic process automation, that came into play, a lot of the functions which were binary in nature, which had a following a policy with a yes no mandate, all of that became RPA, right? It moved it. Then it changed the whole dynamics around accounting teams and not having to look at physical documents. Everything is scanned today. The system can read your invoices and pass entries. So that's an evolution that's happened. Now, what happens to those skills, right? They had to upskill themselves into functions. So FP&A was the next big function that was growing. And we've seen a lot of them actually look at adapting themselves into this new age of finance. And typically, who would come to FP&A in the past were MBAs. right? Because there is not much outside of in the corporate industry you would look for. Accounting was restricted to uh, chartered accountants and everything. That's expanded. I think that barriers have been taken away, and nobody anymore sees this as verticals. They see this as a specialized function. And I think we've now seen all kinds of qualifications and experience coming into FP&A because this is an evolving function. It has just started utilizing itself in a much bigger way for decision making, and especially in companies where the business is very dynamic, right? And this will expand further in the sense into many industries and functions that we've not even thought FP&A can actually play a very significant role. And I've in many sessions I've spoken when I spoke in the Project Management Institute, they said, "Oh, we didn't know finance can actually provide these services." I had a CEO and a founder talk to me and say, "Can you come and talk to my finance team?" So I think it's all about the evolution. IT generally has a much faster evolution on these things. The non-IT functions are a little lag behind because of how they are when it comes structured technology and the how the whole ownership thing operates. But I think this is going to go bigger. Technology will still come and disrupt just like it did in accounting, but that will take some time. But at the same time, I think it's for us to do justice to our roles of upskilling ourselves. The more you're strategic, the more you're helping decision making, I think you're relevant.
So when Raghu, everyone goes into decision making, then who will do the execution?
It's decision making is the ultimate output of the analytics that you're doing, right? All of the now a simple thing with that is there's a lot of data, and many people don't know how to make sense of data, right? There's you can convert the data into 4 or 5 natural trends, but there is a lot more you can do, and that's where I think FP&A is evolving itself to say I can give you trends that you can't see. Okay, I can give you inputs that you did not have access to.
So it's a wider function.
Yeah. It's what we did not know is the extent that we can go to convert data into a meaningful analysis, right? We were limited by very simple functions because it limited our ability, one, to understand. Second, there were no tools to drive data to do this. Data science is all about that. There's a lot of data, and how do I make sense of it? And if you have uh, not very good data, then AI can't help you do any breakthrough in that information. So I think that's where this is happening. There is more data now coming into you. Now, how do I make this sensible is where I think FP&A teams have to evolve, and I think leaders have to come and say, here is how you start thinking of information, go understand your business. And I feel what is also changing is finance is now getting into business, into understanding the depth of what business is. So their ability to actually feed information is increasingly getting more efficient.
This is amazing, Raghu, and that's why I think analytics plays an important role as well. So we have Adobe is known for tools like Photoshop and now AI-enabled Firefly and Sensei. So how is AI changing the creativity? Is it replacing artists or empowering them?
Empowering them naturally because AI is now plugged into almost all our softwares that we sell. It has become an enabler. If you could only edit, say, 530 photos out of 500 you took today, it will help you edit all the 500 through using AI, right? You you had to sort raw files and do it. I mean, I'm giving you a very simplified example. Now, AI, I think, has become a natural platform to add into anything that you do. We see it as an enabler. What we see is that it will help you do more in a very short period of time. So possibly, you if you said in the past that you didn't have time to take more work, today you can't say that because AI has helped to create more opportunity. It is left for you to figure out if you want to be in that space of taking on more because actually the system is helping you accelerate your output.
So in the generation of AI and Gen AI, what is the advice you would give to finance professionals to stay updated?
I think we have to be hungry to learn tech. I mean, from the generation I come, tech was not natural for us in finance, right?
I believe now also it is.
If you've adapted yourself, right? I mean, I've spent a lot of time learning. I did a course AI for CFOs.
But why do people hate technology more, especially in the finance professionals? I see that they get really frightened of tech.
See, it's end of the day, everything is a culture. I mean, automation has been happening for 50 years. Manufacturing industry went into robotics. Everything is, it's called AI in the service industry, right?
So service sector is something where AI have come, right? So what have like, so this is the first time service sector is hit, right?
Yeah, the noise is largely because services sector has been hit by AI or an automation in a large scale, right? It is cut across almost every function, and I think it will enable. I mean, I always believe if you are not ready to upskill yourself, you will find it difficult. You may be one of those people who will have difficulty retaining your job or position or role. Those who adapt will naturally find more work. I mean, this is not going to go away. See, technically, what's going to happen? We are in a very automated world. We are in a data driven world. More and more data is going to come into your system. It is not easy to overnight go and switch for so much of data for AI to be solving. Decision making is going to remain with you. And it's all machine learning, right? Every time I'm doing a new analysis, the system is getting better. So who's feeding that analysis? It is coming from somebody who's understanding the business and doing that job. It will take time, but as long as you're willing to adapt to this change, you have agility and you're not stuck by your old method of doing things and not wanting to consider this, then it will be difficult. At some point in time, it will come and restrict your ability to take decisions.
So for parents and students worried about AI stealing the careers, what truths would you share?
See, it will steal as long as you're not willing to adapt. And I think the new generation is not going to be, doesn't have to be worried about it. There will be disruption. I mean, there's been disruption all through that industrialization has happened. So it's about, there is a lot of noise because we share this information through digital media, right? In the past, it was spoken in smaller circles. Today, it is widely spoken, so it feels like the noise is much louder. I would say there is more opportunity. Like we speaking about GCCs just before this, if we're looking at taking this from 1800 to 5000 GCCs, you need people to do the job. And if a function comes into India, you need finance, you need operations, you need HR. So it is evolving. It is going to create that opportunity no matter what happens. But are you ready to be one of those people to pick it up? I think that decision still lies with you as an individual. I would say there's nothing to worry as long as you are willing to do what's necessary to be there.
But agentic AI is something where a lot of the students are worried about. What is your view on agentic AI? Because I was testing that in our organization, Simandhar. That person talks exactly like me. So how is agentic AI? Is it also disruptive? Like many of them are talking about it.
See, innovation is all about bringing disruption, right? Bringing something new, thinking out of the box. Now, today you may see agentic AI as a disruption, but is it going to be for all sectors? Is it going to be for some sectors? Is everything going to change to agentic AI? The answer may be no. Now, also what is important is services industry's adoption could be much faster than other industries. But are the companies ready to adapt that overnight? It is a lot of investment. There is a lot of cultural shift that it is going to take a certain amount of time. And you will see that evolution happen. I think there is no need to panic, but it is just good for you, good to be prepared.
What if that comes, then what should we do?
Like I said, you have to upskill yourself. I mean, I think there is no option. The more knowledgeable you are, the more skills that you have with you, you will always be relevant.
And when you talk about the upskilling, which skills you look at actually and which skills they should develop?
So I'll give you a quick example of our company. We have professional education and development as a fund that we provide for all employees, irrespective of levels. It's the same amount everybody gets, whether you're a VP or a fresher in the company. Now, we had difficulty in adoption of this at the company level. And something that I did for the company with the team is I started doing a couple of courses to just drive the thought that if I can do, you can do model. And I went and did 3 courses, AI for CFOs and a couple of them, right, on digital learning. And they said, how can you spend weekends? You are busy and so on and so forth. Today, I have more than 65% of my team who have done 39 unique courses. They have done Python, they have done SQL, they have gone and done qualifications around whether it's a CFO position, something around data science. So there are people who've done multiple. The challenge that we always have to start is, and typically this is common in finance, is once we have come out of our education and we've got into a job, we don't go back to reading and studying. Solution consultants, technology, engineering people do this very well. They constantly update themselves. They go, and we don't do a good job. And I think that we changed in the company. Now, what I do is every all hands that we do, we put up the slide of people who've completed courses and who are pursuing courses. And every time there are three, now it's gone to 4 or 5 slides worth of people. Even though you've completed, your name will keep coming, and everybody wants to see their name there. Now, this has driven a whole mindset change. I have people writing Python codes today in finance and actually solving problems which was taking 6 hours, 10 hours to run reports, is running in 10 minutes. We did not get an external person. They asked Copilot to give it a code. It gave, they modified, and these guys never touched anything technology. This is all in the last 2 years. So it is possible. You have to, I mean, I drove it this way, somebody else may drive it differently, but that has to happen.
So I think recognition plays a very good role in motivating them for the skills.
Yes, absolutely.
We have created a career comparison chart like engineering, MBBS, commerce, and certifications like CPA, CMA, data analytics with insights on salaries, job market risk, AI resilience. Viewers, you can pause here and screenshot this table. Raghuram, what stands out to you here? Do you think Indian students and parents undervalue the global finance certifications?
Not necessarily. I think the understanding of global certifications was limited, and the belief was they were only valued outside of India. Right? I think now you have a lot more value for those within India, and within India we were restricted to just a few CWAs, CA, and MBA. Now that is an acceptance, I think, that came with a lot of these consulting firms coming in and starting the responsibility to shared services and everything else. I saw the sheet that you spoke about, and see what had higher acceptance in the past which was revenue generating roles, because product meant eventually it was top line. And if you see historically, we were functions called as support functions. We were not seen as value generating functions, right? We were seen as somebody you have to have because you have to comply with regulation. You had HR because you have to comply with regulation. Today we no longer are support functions. We are core value providers. We may be driving how revenue changes for the company. We may be driving how investments happen. So we've become a critical aspect of businesses today. Nobody talks to us as support functions. I don't like that term being used anymore because we've evolved out of that, and many of the functions that we speak, they are non-engineering functions, but they're extremely high in value, and we have an impact. So I think that has changed. With all of that is where the value of these certifications are suddenly seeing benefits of higher starting pay and evolution of that. And CMA CPA was not very well known internally, right? That has changed. I think Simandhar and many other institutions have come in and actually promoted the value of these education systems, and we have a few members from our team who pursuing those qualifications. I think that will evolve now, and suddenly there will be something beyond just the natural two the roles that we were looking for. I think we are already opening up to looking at anybody who has skill set that will drive for our FP&A function we are looking at. So we've expanded that thought. So I think that's the knowledge for that was known very little. I think that's now much more wide.
Why do you think so that it was less recognized? Like,
for a long time, MBA and CA were the most commonly spoken. CWA was the next alternative spoken. Then you had CS, right? None of these were heard. US CPA was always assumed that it is useful only in USA, not in India. Now all of CMA was always considered to be something in Europe or somewhere else. So I think all of that has changed because there was no value for those roles in India. I would have not hired if you asked me 20 years ago because I didn't know what they could provide. We always thought they did it for another market. I think that's changed. It's become now global, and it doesn't matter that you have to have an MBA in order to be in FP&A.
So for a 20 something today plotting against this chart, what is your advice?
Take CMA, CPA, whatever is as a stepping stone to knowledge building. You have to do something beyond that. You have to have continuous learning and development that could help you walk into, because there are a lot of subjects we've seen which are relevant to the functions that you will get into, because they've curated now that makes sense for the industry. Eventually leads you to growth, and then you get into decision making, and the success of decision making is what makes you popular, and that's when you suddenly associate all of this towards an individual. So if I was doing these things even 15 years ago, but nobody noticed, is because it's how the thing operates. At a certain level, you are expected to do what you're expected to do, but these qualities stayed with me through the tenure of my career, or say last 15-20 years. That has evolved me faster to get to this position than somebody else. I think it's there, but you have to be aware of building these skill sets over time. It doesn't come because you got promoted to a senior position.
So can we just conclude that young people can never become leaders?
You can then, if that is the case, then you would not have had startup CEOs much more popular and
That's a great
than us.
answer.
I mean, you have a 20, 25 something folks who are thinking much smarter than folks like us.
But why are they not thinking in the job like that?
It is because of how our mindset is driven. When it is your own company, you are thinking of strategic shifts. Here, you're only worried about your role. And I think that's the mindset we have to change. I always tell people, think of this, be the CEO of your business, no matter what you're delivering. If you start thinking in that manner, you will be no different to any of them. They are very conscious about what they're spending, where they're spending the impact. How do we operate in a corporate, in a responsibility or a smaller role? I have to deliver you these 10 things, I will do this and I'll go home. Right? We don't think about how can I make it better? Why should it be 10 reports? Why can't it be 5? That is more important for your decision making. So we don't make that effort. We do checkbox activity, tend to kind of operate that way. Whereas these folks that you hear about would not have been successful if they thought that way.
So is leadership very much linked to thinking, because from childhood we have been trained to listen to parents and all.
Leadership is always there in all of us. One, how do we nurture? And it has nothing to do with age and position, in my opinion. It's how you nurture, how you use, and how you continue to be aware of those decision makings. If you operate like you're paying me so much and I will deliver you X, you will remain there. If you're looking at it like a CEO of your own business, your responsibility, you will be scaling. And there are much younger leaders we've seen taken up CFO positions or bigger positions in the company. And I believe someday, and my belief is that the FP&A function will have a C-suite name.
Wow. So where do you see the next frontier of finance leadership in next 5-10 years, and what excites you the most? How will the future of finance be?
So specific to FP&A, since we are talking about that segment, I think they are going to be more and more powerful as a function because they are getting closer and closer to business because of how dynamic the business is. There are a lot of real-time decisions the company is having to take across levels. It's not just the senior most level. And I think FP&A will become very, very critical in providing that input. And the thought process, and finance has a different mindset than the other functions. So they will look at leaning, and I believe in my heart someday I will want to, when I rest my shoes, I want to say that the FP&A has a C-suite position. Maybe it will be called a chief value officer or a chief strategy and analyst officer. Yeah, I mean, I believe it is getting to a stage where you may be a peer to a CFO, because CFO's role will be mostly board driven, market driven, analyst driven, and focusing on those aspects. But then you have an independent role which can actually directly work with the leadership team, providing the kind of analysis that's necessary for the business to drive decision making. So I am fairly positive that something like this will happen in the future, because it's all about thinking out of the box.
CFO going to CVO, Chief Value Officer. I think that's one of the reasons HDFC CFO became the HDFC CEO. So
Many Hero Honda
shifting is happening actually.
Yeah.
So what should India's education system and industry do to unlock global finance talent from cities beyond the metros? Because we haven't even seen much of the universities even having FP&A as a subject.
Yeah, I think it's covered in MBAs in different subjects. It's not identified as FP&A, but I think it has subjects like management accounting. Yes, it needs to bring in I think more around data science, around how do you look at data, strategic thinking, which we typically do in executive leadership programs. I think some of these elements have to come in. And I have personally been of the belief that we have to get students to be uh, job ready or corporate ready. I think that's something a city kid could be slightly much better or ahead. Uh, Children coming in from further cities could actually get a little bit of difficulty around dealing with that, because it is important for you to be able to talk what you've learned, communicate, be able to think through how do you use presentation skills, how do you use storytelling with numbers, which is a very complex thing to do.
And Excel is obviously one of the.
Yeah, I think some of these things would help them explore and be much more confident when they come in. Otherwise, they are trying to deal with a lot of challenges. And it's a very competitive world. You don't get enough time to build yourself up. Not everybody's in a hurry, and I want you to be up and running in the shortest time that I can. And that's where I feel the education system can evolve to bring in some of these elements that can help them come and be much more confident.
So we have one very interesting segment, which is a rapid fire, Raghu, and this is one of the most interesting part of our podcast. So if Adobe was a cricket team, who would lead it and why?
Undoubtedly Shantanu. He's an avid cricket lover. I think he's recently taken up ownership in MLC, the US Cricket League. And I believe he has laid his hands on expanding his interest around cricket in other clubs too. He is avid. He's always following up cricket. So does my boss. When they are in town, they're much more aware of what the score is than we do for matches. I would definitely think it's him.
Awesome. So that's the T20 League of the US.
Yes, MLC.
So one movie that resonates with your leadership style.
Yeah, what comes to mind is Moneyball. Again, if you see the storyline, it's all about using data, thinking out of the box, and then doing strategic decision, which is something that I am also close to. For me, data is very critical of how I look at strategic decision making, and I lean on that as a fundamental base for me to think. Then I break the ceiling in terms of trying to do things which are not done before, and my base is stronger because of that methodology that I adopt.
So one coffee or chai habit that gets you through the tough days.
Black coffee.
So you are obsessed about cars, and we have heard a lot of things about cars. What is so much about the cars thing? And I've seen in your on your mobile as well.
Yeah, automobile has been something right through my childhood. So right from the time I had cycle to bikes to cars, I used to not take them to service centers. I used to service my own cycle, my bike for a very long time. I would go sit as a kid in mechanic shops and watch how they do repair. So I've actually done it sitting at home. My passion comes from there. And I used to go and attend racing circuits and rallies. And I've been, for a very short period of time, I did rally in a two-wheeler bike on a Yamaha RX. And passion for cars never gone. So anybody who knows me knows my hands are always on a sports car or an equivalent of that I can afford. Yeah, that is a manifestation that I have for my next bike.
So which car you have manifested?
A 911 Carrera.
Wow. And we hope you are getting that. So if you weren't in finance, what career would you have chosen?
See, I was interested to be in the media house, or rather making ads. That was my favorite. I wanted to go into that, and I wanted to write scripts. During college, I used to write mad ad scripts, and I felt I had something there, but it wasn't something that I could work out. But I would have loved to be sitting and making ads.
What about the mountaineering? I have heard that you certified mountaineering stuff as well.
Yeah, so something with mountains I've always had, I can't figure out exactly why. I don't know if I was because where I was born. I was born in Ooty, which is a hill station. And something about mountains always made me go awe about it. I can be in the Himalayas, especially Himalayas. I can go there and keep watching it for the entire day doing nothing. So I picked up cycling in Himalayas about 10 years ago. A friend of mine pushed me into it. He stopped. I've been doing it every year. riding to the highest altitude, mountaineering. Some of my colleagues from the CFO industry dragged me into it. I got certified in basic mountaineering last year. And if we are lucky, next month I will be able to summit one of the high altitude mountains. So,
And that's with the Indian Army, if I'm not wrong.
yeah.
Amazing, amazing, Raghu. This is a fantastic rapid fire. I would say this is one of the amazing ones which we had, which had a lot of creativity added into it than the routine finance. So we have our rapid fire hamper as well for Raghu, and that's given by Simandhar Education. as
Thank you.
such. For answering more creatively, that's what Adobe is known for. More creativity in answers, more creativity in thinking. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One thing which I'm very much fond of in Adobe is the creativity. मतलब सर इंडिया में एक बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है, पीपल डोंट आस्क क्वेश्चंस. जैसे सेम काम दिया है एक इंडियन टीम को, वो क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछते. वही काम जब हम लोग यूएस टीम को देते हैं, लाइक व्हेन वी सेंड इट टू द यूएस, देयर आर लाइक 70-80 क्वेश्चंस कमिंग अप. What is that stopping? And at Adobe we see that creativity is all over the world. What are you guys doing to create that culture of creativity, and how can India also become more, where India can get more thinkers than doers?
So I would say the new generation is not scared at all to ask questions. It could be at the generation we come or maybe one after. See, it's something to do with our culture, right? Hierarchy was part of how we were all brought up. You are always scared of asking questions, even within family. So I think it's something that's evolving. You do get more questions outside because culturally they're a lot more confident in asking these questions. I think what's important and how I drive my team, luckily as a company we are creative, so it's in our DNA to be in that space. What I ask them, or what I tell them is, what's the worst that can happen asking a question? Right? The answer most of the time is nothing. And I said, why fear? Ask. Right? I think that's how we most of the time fear from asking, because we worry more than asking. And I said, stop worrying, because the worst case scenario is nothing. Worst case scenario is you may not get an answer at all, but that's okay, because that's not changing status quo.
And is it related to the managers? Because a lot of
It is the fear of how we've all set up organization. So in my organization, why we have the hierarchy, and I always tell them this, the hierarchy is structured to manage teams in a certain way because responsibilities are distributed, but we operate flat. Nobody in the team has any problem cutting across levels and talking to me directly. There is one young kid we have, and she makes fun of me more than everybody else. She rags me, but that's the culture you have to build, because you don't have to be scared of your bosses, right? And I can be strict in a review, but I can come out and put my hand around and have a conversation. I think that we have to create, which is there culturally. If you see globally, you go around, you can do that. In India, that's evolving, but it's changing. Yeah.
Don't you think then by that culture, a lot of admin questions also come to you? Like,
It's okay. See, what's wrong? I'm okay to answer those questions.
awesome, Raghu.
So Sripal, last time you and I spoke, you told us about the Digital Sripal that you've created, which is a chatbot or a talkbot that you have. Tell us a little more, but I have a couple of more questions to follow up on that.
So I think Digital Sripal is like more like a bot. It kind of have automated the CPA, CMA, EA examination questions. So it have passed the exam with 95% accuracy. So it's a WhatsApp bot. You put any question on the WhatsApp and it can answer fluently, 95% accuracy. So previously there was a time when they used to ask questions in the night and the faculty is not available. Now with this Digital Sripal, they can ask questions 24/7 and it can answer instantly with 95% accuracy.
But you also mentioned, which was very interesting, we always speak about ML, how the machine learning happens with the data that your chatbot is actually using. But you also mentioned that it only picks up education or specific information that is related to what you think the students need to know. So if you ask random questions, the system doesn't actually respond. What does it say in that case?
We have done a lot of negative prompting. So if it asks anything other than the subject, so we have trained the bot over the years. So it had not come like in 1 day or 2 days. So we had a lot of our team members training the bot again and again. So today if it asks recipe, we're like, you can't answer the recipe. So you have ensured that the prompting is properly done and the training is done on that prompts. So if they ask anything other than the accounting, the bot will tell this is only related to the accounting or this is only related to the subject matter. So I mean, you might have in the CPA bot, it can answer a lot of US tax questions, but it will not be able to answer a recipe or something like that.
And what's the use? You've seen a lot of your students use that. What's the
So we have rolled this out to the students who are writing the exam in next 3 months, 4 months, because I've seen a lot of the pushback from the people who are like having 1 year of time to prepare. They think that I don't need to use the bot now. And it's good for us because then they interact with us. So we don't want them to automate or we don't want them not to reach out to us at all. So I think that's where it is. I think 1 month, 2 months before, this bot is extremely useful. So in the night, they have a lot of questions and they are the one who will show a lot of urgency. So I think there the bot have done wonders.
And have you handled anything where you've seen more repeated questions differently in terms of trying to address that rather than everybody having to ask the same question?
No, I think we have ensured that most of the questions, we have a Telegram study groups. So in that study group, there are almost like 8,000 questions being answered. And that is since 8 years, almost like 70,000 answers which we have done. So most of the time, whenever they are asking question, it's already there in the Telegram. They just need to do a question number. They need to search with an MCQ number. They get that MCQ answered.
Right.
So we have automated, before AI came, we actually automated our Telegram groups. So they don't need to keep searching and keep answering, keep asking the question because it's already there in the study group because it's been since 8 years. Okay. So many students have asked so many variety of questions. So today when they ask a question in the group, there are almost like 200 answers. So they can select which answer suits them.
So this is for the students. I was one of the COVID speakers for Simandhar on what's FP&A and how the industry is looking for students. And that was the start of our journey and relationship that we started. So you do speak to students and corporate all the time. What's the one question you think they don't ask you?
So they fear a lot about jobs. So they don't come actually to learn. They come to get a job. So I think they do the qualification or CPA or a CMA only to ensure that they can get a job. So when I bring the industry leaders and also they don't see the value in that. Thank you so much, Raghu, for sharing such deep, insightful conversations. It was amazing from FP&A to leadership to personal habits to creativity, whatnot.
Thanks, Sripal and Simandhar, for inviting me to this podcast. And I loved this conversation. I hope the students will also benefit from what they're hearing. We're speaking out of experience and what we know. These are mostly my personal point of view. So do evaluate before you take those decisions. So thank you so much for having me.
This deep conversation stay with our audience. If you feel that there is a spark which have been ignited in you to think about AI, to think about FP&A, to think more than doing, I think this is the podcast which have actually opened up eyes about the finance profession, what the future of finance looks like, and how we can actually kind of put it to more efficient use through the ever-changing technology and the AI tools as well. Do like, share, comment, subscribe. This is Sripal Jain signing off. Thank you so much.